Welcome to Let's Talk Security, where we spotlight cybersecurity companies and give an inside look at the people and technology behind the latest advancements in the industry. We discuss a wide range of topics with subject matter experts about today's cybersecurity challenges and how their solutions are helping organizations like yours maintain a continuous security posture. Please welcome the host of Let's Talk Security, Jeff Wolach.
Today on Let's Talk Security, I'll be talking to the company LUMU. I'm here with David Sylvester, Vice President of Worldwide Sales. Thank you for joining me today, David.
Oh, great to be here, Jeff. Thanks for having me.
David, I have a list of questions I put together for our chat today, so why don't we just jump right in? David, tell us a little bit about LUMU, its history, and your role as the Vice President of Worldwide Sales.
Okay. Well, let's start. LUMU it's a technology company that's roughly 18 months old, and we exist for one reason: measure compromise levels of an organization's network. So, really honing in on where are points of compromise within a network. And within 18 months, we're now, we have 1,000 clients. So it's a technology and really a new cybersecurity concept that's taking off. I had global sales for the company, and my job is really to lead the sales strategy, work with awesome reseller partners like SWTG, and really get this out to all the global markets. And I manage a global sales team. So, that's really it in a snapshot. Now, the whole idea of LUMU originated from our founder, Ricardo Villadiego, who he's a technology visionary entrepreneur. He was involved in electronic fraud detection and prevention. And while we were fighting fraud, we kept seeing all these breaches, the data breaches, all the data that was stolen was being led to fraud. And while we were focused on fighting fraud at the time, we really saw that there was a tremendous need to measure and detect compromise for institutions as a preliminary step to fighting fraud. And that's really, how LUMU started as a company.
Interesting. We're hearing these days a lot about network traffic analysis, or NTA. Is LUMU considered an NTA?
We are. I mean, we're Gartner, Forrester, the main analysts include us, and NTA and network threat detection and response. The key thing to remember there is not all NTA solutions are designed the same way. They might all be using a lot of the same raw material, a lot of the network metadata, but let's look at what are you actually doing with that data and how are you presenting it to the cybersecurity team. There's a document by the Enterprise Secure Strategy Group on how a lot of network performance tools were originally made for something else, and now they've later evolved into cybersecurity solutions. Well, with LUMU, from day one, we're built with the design of analyze network traffic and measure compromise intentionally and continuously, and that's really what we give you. And then what we see is that we're seeing a lot of businesses come to us with legacy NTAs, and then they're looking for more of that specific compromise detection. To answer your question, Jeff, we are an NTA solution.
And you talked a little bit about what makes you different from traditional NTAs. Is there anything more specific about that? And I know that in reading some of your documentation, David, you did talk about being able to coexist with legacy NTA solutions. You want to elaborate on that?
Yeah, the main thing is, we're looking at the entire system. Looking at on-prem, IoT, hybrid cloud environments. I think there's other NTA solutions that are looking at a very specific segment, and also a very specific segment of network data. That can go very deep, and that can be complementary. LUMU's, we're looking at the entire system that we're measuring. Now, how are we different from other NTA solutions? It really goes back to making it very simple with your focus on a day-to-day level, and prioritizing. These are the compromise events that truly matter. These right here are your IT assets that are communicating with adversarial infrastructure, and you need to know about them. And what's great about LUMU is that it's designed for really organization, no matter the level of your maturity of your cybersecurity department. Whatever architecture you have in your security program, LUMU is going to meet you there. So if you already have NTA solutions, we're going to be able to work with you. If you don't have anything, we're a great starting point. So, that's one of the nice things about it. Another key point to mention, Jeff, is we're made for the day-to-day security operators and strategists alike. Let me go a little deeper on that. The guys that are in the SOC day in, day out, looking for what they need to go after, what do they need to do, what intelligence they have in front of them, we're going to put that right in front of them. But larger picture, the strategists, maybe the CISOs looking to come in a new organization and get a sense of, what am I inheriting? How compromised is my organization's network today? And how can I start, making this a better situation for my company? And that gives them really vital information, with the security investments they've made to date, their approach on how they manage the network. So there's really that great value for operators and strategists alike with LUMU.
Excellent. Your website talks about LUMU and how you guys analyze the broad range of network metadata, and that no other vendor is doing this analysis as a whole. Can you elaborate on that for us?
Yeah, definitely. So a lot of it is, there's a lot of network metadata sources, and again, a lot of NTA players are doing different things with that data. What LUMU is doing is we're closing this open security loop with not knowing if we are compromised or not. We've invested millions and millions in cybersecurity solutions. We do a number of security testing assessments, such as pen testing, vulnerability scanning, but we still can't, unequivocally answer, hey, is my network compromised? Do I have IT assets communicating with adversarial infrastructure? So it becomes more about, yes, LUMU, we collect a broad range of extensional network metadata, but it's more, what are you turning that into? And that's our laser focus of compromise detection across the entire system. It's a very specific purpose, measure compromise. And then, we can use that information to operationalize that information. So that's really the broad data that I'll get more into. I think that's what we're doing with it.
How long is the metadata stored? And then where is it actually stored, David?
Okay, good question. So we have two different security offerings. We have our LUMU free freemium tier that any organization can sign up right now and get going. And what we guarantee is 45 days of data retention. So 45 days. Now with our paid tier, which we call LUMU Insights, you're going to get 2 years data retention. And that's a big deal. Why 2 years? Well, that allows us to do what we call playback analysis. As new cyber attacks surface, you're going to want to correlate if you previously saw that attack on your network. And you can do that for up to 2 years. So that's pretty cool. We know that there's going to be new cyber attacks, and when you want to correlate, hey, did this attack happen on my network? LUMU is going to tell you that. Now, where is all this data stored? It's through AWS. This is with AWS data centers. It's important to state that this is network metadata. You're not getting into PII. So that's where the metadata is stored.
That's good to know. I mean, people are concerned, obviously, on having data stored out and, outside of their network, if you will, and knowing that it's basically network metadata, you don't have any PII in there is very helpful to organizations, that actually have a little bit of concerns about that. How is LUMU helping organizations in today's environment, right? With what's going on with COVID, the pandemic, the shift to work from home. Obviously, that's changed a lot of organizations' structure. So how can LUMU, or how is LUMU actually helping organizations with their work from home users?
Yeah, that's the big question right now, right? And LUMU really is set up to adapt to any reality of today's business. If you're on-prem, if you're back in office, if you're working with the cloud applications, or you still have a large part of your workforce working from home, it's really that hybrid IT infrastructure of today. You need to have compromise detection, again, across the entire system. So there's really two ways where we're helping with work from home. One is, there's still a number of organizations that are connecting with VPN. So we're able to collect metadata through the VPN, all right? So we can detect compromises that way. But we also have our LUMU agent for Windows systems right now that we're able to tap into. So, even users that don't have to use the company network or infrastructure, we're able to tap into their network metadata and include it in the compromise assessment.
Interesting. So you also talk about compromise context. That's kind of an interesting term that is in your literature and on your website. Can you tell us what do you mean by compromise context?
Yeah, it's a catchy phrase, right? And what is it? It's a beautiful term, but what exactly is it, right? And to us, it's compromise context is intelligence that ultimately is going to put a security team right in the right place to make a precise response to a compromised device. It's more about that ability to respond to alerts that matter, with that precise and timely matter. And this is designed with the breach dwell times in mind, right? There are a number of cybersecurity solutions out there that are, they're going to say, we're going to tell you and give you that security context you need to stop that breach. We want to put you in a position as a security analyst where you have that critical context right at your fingertips, and you can operationalize it. You can act with precision to respond. You're put in that position. So compromise context to me, Jeff, and LUMU is really, that position with critical intelligence. You know exactly where your IT assets are communicating with adversaries, and you're in a position to precisely respond.
Now, you talked, David, about threat intelligence. Where does LUMU actually get your threat intelligence from?
Yeah, threat intel. I mean, there's a couple things on this one. We have over 80 different threat intelligence sources, and I can, we can list them all out. There's a lot there. There's Malware Patrol, there's Fish Tank, there's Virus Total with Google. There's a number, but kind of that bigger picture, we got a bigger story to tell at LUMU, and that's really is right now every device at an organization is generating network metadata. And what's cool now about LUMU is you can immediately turn on our threat intelligence, and start looking at your compromise level, just in a matter of minutes. So, it's more that bigger picture that, hey, we have this conglomerate threat intelligence source. We have it availably ready for anybody. You just turn it on and we're going to start going. And we maintain private threat intelligence sources that we pay subscriptions to. We have our own curated sources that we've developed in-house. But again, it's kind of going back to that bigger picture. Great, LUMU has threat intelligence sources, but what's really critical is that I can really put this to use in my day-to-day operation to understand my compromise level. So that's what we're doing with our threat intelligence sources, and you can do this right now with our LUMU free product. It's to just kind of push that right now is, you want threat intelligence. We have 80 sources waiting for you to compare your network metadata to, that you can turn it on. We're going to start assessing for compromise using those sources and tell you just where you're compromised and to what extent. And that's what I encourage anybody that wants to do that for free, they can do.
So, okay, you talk about, metadata, you talk about threat intelligence and enhancing that metadata. Sounds like a SIM. Are you guys similar to a SIM? Where do you stand with being, kind of classified as a SIM?
Yeah, we get it. That's a common question, right? We have clients that have a SIM and clients that don't have a SIM. So, right out of the gate, just know that this isn't a replacement for a SIM. There's similarities and there's differences. One of the biggest things I see is that the clients that do have SIMs, I think it may not have translated as efficiently as they want with how they're extending all their resources. And also, are they getting that advanced threat detection they need? And those organizations come to LUMU and want to tap into our API and have our compromise detection intelligence on top of what they're doing with SIMs. So it's more of a sit on top approach. But the thing to remember, Jeff, LUMU will meet you again really where you are with your cybersecurity program. A lot of organizations still don't have a SIM. So they still need that threat detection, and LUMU provides that quick out of the box approach to turn on, start knowing where are you compromised and be in that position to respond. So just know that we can work with SIMs for clients that have SIMs that are heavily invested there, and then we have others that don't have SIMs, and we're going to give you that compromise detection right out of the gate. Another point on this, I think it's important to remember, SIMs were initially built to aggregate a lot of logs of data, right? And generate events and really help with that forensics approach and reporting. And, it's stuff that's very important and needed. That's all good and dandy. LUMU, what we're doing is we're coming in with the cloud-based deployment product, day one, turning it on, and gonna start showing you where you are compromised. So it's a different approach, different benefits, and we can work with SIMs if you have one, and if you don't, that's okay too.
That's very good, explanation. Now, you guys talk about, well, I should say you talked about a little while ago, network detect and response, NDR. As you know, there's EDR out there today as well. What makes you different? I mean, are you classified in the EDR space, or is it just basically network information? And if do you work well with EDRs?
Yeah, it's complementary, and I think kind of backing up with cybersecurity right now, there's still no magic bullet, right? There's, at least that I'm aware of, and I'm sure you'll probably agree with me, there's not, one solution that's just going to keep you safe. It's unfortunately, that's how it works. And even with the best EDR solutions out there, we're still seeing compromises. We're still seeing, elongated breach dwell times. We're still seeing these painful breaches. And so, we complement what EDR is doing. Now, what we're doing is, again, we don't care to what extent your cybersecurity program is, how mature it is. We are going to intentionally and contextually measure compromise on your network. And hopefully it's low. Hopefully all those cybersecurity solutions you have are doing what they're saying they're doing and keeping your network compromise free. But if they're not, that's why you have LUMU, closing that cybersecurity loop and assuming that you're going to be compromised. So what typically happens with EDR, Jeff, is LUMU still finds points of compromise, and then those organizations point their EDR tools at them to respond and mitigate and clean up. And that's that powerful 1-2 story that you can have with LUMU and an EDR.
Interesting. That's great. You just recently, I think it was in August, announced the release of your enhanced spam box analysis. Can you tell us about that and how that is helping organizations improve their compromise detection?
Absolutely. And this, this is big, and I think will help differentiate us from, again, other NTAs. Spam box, how many people listening today on this can say, I'm really using my spam box as a threat intelligence source, or is it more siloed? And at the end of the day, you're content knowing that your spam solution is working, your email security is good, and spam's just, there. Just like you can do with your other network metadata, you can unlock that potential of your spam data. And it's almost like dumpster diving, if you will, right? Look for evidence in a trash can. Another person's trash is somebody else's treasure, if you will. There's a ton of information in spam, Jeff. And email's the #1 attack vector, right? That's still true. But spam is usually that afterthought. It just kind of sits there and, bring that to life. We can actually do something with it. We can understand adversarial campaigns. How successful are they? Ultimately, these guys are so creative with their email phishing campaigns and getting in the network through email. You can correlate your spam content to, see if it's showing up on the network. Even though it shows that it's being blocked in spam, are you checking to see if that is showing up in your network? Can you match that and know right away if that's going on? And that's what, again, LUMU is looking at unique metadata sources to tell your compromise story. And we see a big place for spam and email, because that's the #1 attack vector.
That's pretty interesting. I mean, I could tell you myself, I go through my spam box on a regular basis, but it's just really a matter of checking to see if it was obviously something that I should have, it should have allowed through, or if it was, legitimate spam, but never occurred to me, I guess, to actually analyze all of the spam traffic and try to pinpoint some adversarial campaigns around, what you're seeing in the spam, which is pretty interesting. Now, you also talked about a continuous compromise assessment. Can you elaborate a little bit on that? What LUMU is offering here?
Yeah, I mean that's that's what LUMU is known for. This whole idea of a continuous compromise assessment as a bigger cybersecurity idea, mantra, strategy, if you will. It's a mindset. And it's very clear today, 2020, that we're not winning the war on cyber criminals. That, you know, the 200 plus day dwell times of breaches, the ransomware attacks, you know, they are getting past our security layers one way or another. You know, and they're doing it with, you know, at organizations that have a very robust, extensive arsenal of cybersecurity tools. And so the mindset I'll push out to cybersecurity practitioners and organizations today is you have to operate on a day-to-day basis, assuming you're compromised, and you have to prove otherwise. And so it turns into this continuous compromise assessment. You know, don't settle that you think your cybersecurity solutions are working. You know, you have to intentionally look for compromise. When we intentionally look for something, we find it, right? And we haven't done enough to intentionally look for compromise in cybersecurity. We've done a lot with vulnerabilities. You know, when we do our vulnerability scanning assessments, we find vulnerabilities. You know, we see a continuous compromise assessment as a must-have for organizations that just want to keep maturing and evolving as a secure organization. Pen testing is another example. Very good security practice, right? We're going to try to break the system and find those gaps. You usually find them in those reports because you're looking for them. So it's the same principle and idea to intentionally looking for compromises. Again, kind of going back, we know that there's not that silver bullet that's going to stop every attack. These adversaries, they're going to get in your network. So a better fundamental approach is, let's assume that they're getting in. Let's intentionally look for it, and let's have that compromised context to then precisely respond, right? And really close those dwell times, beat them before the data exfiltration stage. You really have to have that continuous compromise assessment mindset. And you know, this is a phrase that the analysts, Gartner, you know, this is coming up bigger and bigger, and it's really, you know, it's one where that differentiates LUMU within that busy NTA market space. You know, we're the ones bringing this idea to the market. We're the ones making that context happen. And that's, you know, that's how organizations are starting to work on a day-to-day basis, assuming that they're compromised. Let's assume that they're getting in, and then go from that route. Let's just not try to block them out, you know, thinking we're going to stop everything they throw at us. It's not feasible. We've seen that time and time again.
And that's actually very, very thoughtful there, as far as making sure that you can continuously watch what's going on. Ransomware, you want to talk a little bit about ransomware and how LUMU can possibly detect that?
Yeah, definitely. We're seeing that big right now. I mean, it's a lot of different industries are seeing it. I mean, you know, we like I said, we have 1,000+ clients now, basically opening a LUMU free account and looking at when they have their IT assets communicating with adversarial infrastructure. And what LUMU is able to do, we're able to pinpoint when you're communicating with ransomware adversarial infrastructure. You know, get a little more specific here. And you can do this right now. Again, I'm gonna plug this because it's really that easy to do. Open a LUMU free account, send us your DNS metadata that you're generating right now, and LUMU shows you, you know, which IT assets are communicating out with adversarial infrastructure. And we're going to start showing you, you know, if we're starting to see domain infrastructure associated with ransomware, right? It's very quickly. We're able to see if there's network metadata showing up at your institution that you have IT assets communicating with ransomware infrastructure. It's really that simple. And then you have that visibility across your entire system. You're put in that position to, precisely respond and do something about it, and not just be caught off guard, not have those longer dwell times. We've seen that with ransomware. If they have time, if they go undetected and they're really, allowed to set up their attack, that they're going to exploit that. And it's really going to catch organizations off guard, and it gets ugly very quickly. So, what LUMU is doing, we're showing you very quickly, hey, these are your IT assets that are communicating with known ransomware infrastructure. You need to know about this. You need to do something about this. Otherwise, it's going to come back to haunt you.
Actually, David, you had mentioned earlier that you have a demo that one of your analysts actually put together, Crystal Day. I saw it and I thought it was awesome. And so I'd like to play it for our audience.
All right. Hey, guys, everyone, I'm Crystal Day, and I'm a customer engagement specialist here with LUMU. And I'm going to show you basically LUMU in action. All right. Okay. So all we're going to do first is we're going to go to lumu.io. .io. There we go. Okay, so on the top right-hand corner, you can see the Get Free Account. You're just going to click on that. And it literally just takes a few seconds to fill out all this information and to click Register. That's all you need to do. For me, I have an account, so I'm just going to log in. All right. So here we have is the LUMU portal. So on the left-hand side, I'm going to go to Settings, and I'm going to scroll down to Accounts. So basically, you can invite as many users as you'd like. Just know that the users get a read-only view of the portal, while an admin can actually make changes to the portal. All right, below Accounts, we have Gateways. So I really want to focus on how important it is to set up your gateway. It's basically a public IP where you point your DNS to LUMU. So here on the bottom left-hand side, I'm just gonna highlight that, and those are the numbers for the configuration. So if you have any questions about how to set up your gateway, all you have to do is click on this orange question mark on the bottom right-hand corner. You're gonna click on Documentation, Deploy and Integrate, Network Configuration, you're going to click twice. And here is all the documentation that you'll need to set up your gateway with LUMU. So you're going to keep an eye on this little orange question mark guy, because he's going to be super helpful throughout the portal. All right, I'm going to click on to Overview. And for this section, what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to filter by date. I want to get a more narrow view of my compromises. So I'm going to go to the last 90 days, and I'm going to hit Apply. All right, so here on the top right-hand corner, it says that we have total contacts of 665. Basically, that's 665 compromises that are being detected within the last 90 days. All right, so here we have two types of overviews. Here you see is the activity overview, which is basically overall compromises, making it very threat-centric, okay? And scrolling down, here we have the distribution overview. And these are the endpoints that are being attacked, making it endpoint-centric, okay? So I'm gonna go to the activity overview. And here on the right-hand side are the numbers correlated with the gray, which is the traffic that's being sent. And the numbers on the left, which is correlated with the compromises that we're detecting. So as you can see at the top, we've basically color-coded all of the compromises. So all you have to do is hover over a bar, and we give you a breakdown of all the compromises in relation to the traffic that's being sent for that specific timestamp. All right, so I'm just going to click on more details. So now in the activity overview, I can scroll down and I have the activity details. So as you can see, we have the domain, the type of attack, as well as the threat detail, a timestamp, and then the total amount of contacts. All right, so now I'm going to go back to the distribution overview. All right, so for the distribution overview, in this circle, I'm going to click, and here are all the labels that you've created for your organization that make sense. So that can be location, that can be departments, or specific codes that you create for your organization. So to create those labels, all I have to do is go back to settings, go into gateways, and I'm just going to click this little pencil button. And here you'll see the name, the IP address, and then for the label, you'll just choose one of the labels that you have already, or you can manually type in a new label. All right, so we're going to go back to distribution. Now, in the distribution overview, I'm going to scroll down, and here are the distribution details. These are the specific endpoints that are currently being attacked. All right, so I'm just going to click on one. All right, so this specific endpoint is telling me when it was attacked with the timestamps down here. And then on the left-hand side of the chart, it's telling me how often it's been attacked and then the different type of attacks that are happening. So for this timestamp, it's telling me, 6 phishing, 6 malware. And then here we have the timestamp as well as domain and the type of attack. All right, so we're going back into the activity overview. And let's say that I want to look at a very specific attack and learn more about it. I'm going to click on this command and control attack. Now we have the compromise radar. So on the radar, around in the circle, we have the time of day. All right, so time of day is here. And in the center of the circle, we have the amount of hits, as well as the days of the week. So I'm going to click on compromised contacts. So here we have the compromise radar and we have a summary. So we have 128 contacts and 19 of the endpoints that are affected. So let's say I want to isolate a specific day. So all I have to do is close out all the other days and just leave that day open. So let's say I'm just looking at Wednesday. You're going to hover over the points for that specific time and day, and it'll tell you how many hits. So with this, you can decide and make decisions based on the patterns that you see. So are these contacts manual? Are they automatic contacts, right? So here we have the timestamp, the label, and the endpoint as well. All right, we're going to click onto contacts, and in contacts, we provide you the IOCs. And at the top here, we give you the option to be able to download those IOCs and have them externally. Down here on the right-hand side, we have related resources, and we provide you third-party articles and links. So these could be blogs, these could be white papers, different analysis to confirm this attack, and you can basically choose how far and how deep you want to do the research on this specific attack. For LUMU, we actually provide you with an incidence response playbook. So for here, we suggest the malware one. All you have to do is click on Learn More. The little orange question mark opens up, and here's one of our playbooks. So in the playbook, we give you preparation, detection and analysis, containment, eradication, and recovery. And of course, we're going to give you some post-incident activity. So you and your teams can actually use these playbooks to form better strategies of how to handle these compromises. For more information, you can actually go to documentation, go to the incident response section, and here are the different playbooks that we have for you for each type of compromise. All right, so don't forget this little question mark. Remember, he's very, very helpful. All right, so I'm going to scroll back to the top. Now, basically what I want to do is I want to do a full investigation of how this specific command and control attack, how it began and how it started in my organization. So I'm going to go back to detail. And now I'm going to go into the attack distribution, and I'm going to click on this circle. And again, these are the labels that you created for your organization, right? So I have my labels. Now, what I'm going to look for is I'm going to scroll through the time and dates and look at the first interaction with this specific attack. And it actually looks like it's someone in the WFH label. So WFH is basically work from home. So I'm going to click on that label, And now I'm going to look at the different users and the endpoints. So it looks like here the first user is actually A. Wilson, first point of contact. So I'm basically just going to keep him in mind, and I'm going to go back to the distribution overview. So in distribution, now you can actually go to endpoint and specifically search. So I'm going to search A. Wilson and add them in there. All right. So we have A. Wilson in 2 labels. It looks like he's part of the WFH label as well as the finance label. All right, so I can probably assume that he works in the finance department and he's a working from home individual. All right, so we're gonna click on the WFH label, and oh, it actually looks like he not only interacted with the command and control attack, but before that, a phishing attack. So I'm gonna wanna find out more about this specific attack. Okay, so it looks like there was a phishing attack here that occurred at 8:36, and then the command control was active at 8:40. So there's about 4 minutes in between. And I can definitely say that there's a good chance that this phishing attack is correlated to this command and control attack. So what I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna copy this. And now I'm gonna go back to the activity overview and go straight to domain. Now I'm just gonna paste that specific domain, and here it is. So it says last seen with A. Wilson, that was the user. Okay, I'm gonna go into compromised context. Okay, so now at the top of the page, we provide you with third-party vendors who are basically pros at what they do. So right here, we have Fish Tank, they're the phishing pros. So I'm gonna find out more from them. All right, so here in Fish Tank, it looks like this phishing attack is specifically a website that was actually impersonating DocuSign. So for those who don't know, DocuSign is an electronic signature platform. So I can assume that because the user basically works in the finance department, it's probably quite common for him to use this platform with his clients. And so there's a good chance he downloaded the malware that triggered the command and control attack that basically propagated throughout the organization. Wow, so that was pretty quickly how we found that. All right, so we're gonna go back here to the LUMU portal. And now I'm actually gonna scroll down a little bit further in the detail. And here we provide you with a spam box feature. So I can actually click on this. And now in the spam box, what I can see is I'm looking for that specific attack, the one we just looked for in DocuSign. And here it is. This is that attack. And here on the left-hand side are all the recipients. So as you can see, A. Wilson is one of them. But it looks like this specific attack was also sent to other people. This doesn't mean they necessarily triggered it or that they clicked on it, but you can see who was targeted for this specific attack in this campaign. So something that's really important, a lot of organizations are all about blocking spam. And that's great, it's really important. But at the same time, what we at LUMU want to do is we actually want to analyze that spam. We want to know where it's coming from, why, and how. So a very powerful feature that we provide here at LUMU is actually our spam box feature right here on the left-hand side. So we're going to check that out. So I'm going to go to spam box and I'm going to click on summary. All right, so here in the spam box activity is basically a chart of all of the spam that's coming through and being sent to all the people in my organization. On the right-hand side, we have the top recipients of those spam. So basically the person who's receiving the most amount of spam. And look, A. Wilson is actually at the top right as number 1, getting 43. Okay, scrolling further down, I have my campaign box. So at the top of the campaign box, I have a bit of a funnel. And here we have 7 active malicious campaigns that's being detected. And they're sending about 324 adversarial emails with about 45 IOCs that are affecting 78 recipients, okay? So now here I have the days of the week as well as the time of the day. So I can basically research and hover at when these emails are being sent, how often, and figure out if I'm seeing any specific patterns. All right, so here on the right-hand side, we have our trends section. So the trends are basically an overall summary of all the attacks that are being sent through email. So you can basically take action based on the trends that you see here. So for example, is your antivirus working appropriately? If you're seeing a fair amount of phishing, perhaps you want to create an awareness campaign, right? For your clients, for your end users, you know? It makes you think about your firewall. Are the rules set properly? Is it working appropriately? So these are basically the questions you can ask yourself as well as take action on. And here on the right-hand side, we have our top target recipients. So the big difference between this section and this section is the top spam recipients are receiving all types of spam. So this could also be text only. This could be, you know, advertisements, different types of written scam, while the targeted recipients here are the targeted recipients with specific attacks that are attached. So as you can see here, it's a different person at the top. So he's getting a lot of attachments of different types of attacks. All right, and here in the correlation box, we basically have the activity overview as well as the distribution overview, but in relation to all the emails and the attacks that we found in them. All right, so spam box, that's something that we're analyzing for you guys and finding out more information about. So I'm actually going to go back to the overview. And if you remember, that user was actually part of 2 labels. So I'm going to go back and I'm going to do some research on A. Wilson again. Excuse me. All right. Oops, here we go. Okay, so A. Wilson, we did the research. We found out he was part of the WFH label. Now I'm going to check out the finance label because it looks like there was another attack that happened there. So, all right, it looks like there's a different attack here, and I'm just going to look up to that. Okay, so it looks like it's a DGA. So basically, a DGA is a domain generation algorithm, a technique that's sometimes used to basically avoid network detections. So I'm just going to copy this again. All right, and I'm going to go back to activity, go to the domain, and I'm just going to paste that right on there. Okay, so here it actually tells me that the malware family is specifically CryptoLocker, and this is something that's good to keep in mind. Now we're going to go to the compromised context, and this time I'm going to go to the content, excuse me, and I'm going to look at the related resources, and it actually tells me, oh, in the first article, that it is a type of ransomware. Okay, so this is super, super important. You know, an organization needs to know if someone in their company clicked and activated a ransomware. Ransomware can take tons of time and tons of money for an organization. So something like this, finding out that, you know, like A. Wilson clicked on ransomware and maybe it leaked to the other parts of the organization is super, super important. So we figured that out fairly quickly. All right. So let's do a quick overview of everything that we just talked about. So with the power of LUMU, I was able to quickly investigate a command and control attack that originated from one user and how his actions, A. Wilson, triggered other types of attacks that spread throughout the organization. And it took just a few minutes and it was laid out there. It supported me with the phishing attack as well with our spam box feature. And in just a few seconds, I was able to figure things out and hunt things down. All right. So basically, if you're ready to leverage the power of continuous compromise assessment, just go to lumu.io now and you can register for your free account. That's all it takes. Thank you guys so much.
All right, we're back. David, that was an awesome demo. Crystal does a great job always. Thanks again for joining us today. I think really a lot of our listeners today hopefully got a lot of information about the LUMU solution, how continuous compromise assessments are very important, a little bit about what you're doing with the enhanced spam box analysis, which is pretty cool. And also, what you can do with basically people that are working from home as well as working within the corporate organization. So if there's anything you'd like to add, to our conversation, please feel free to do so now.
Yeah, just want to thank you, Jeff, and SWTG for giving us this opportunity. To all the listeners, I hope you found this useful. This whole idea of this continuous compromise assessment: assume that you're compromised, prove otherwise. It's really the only way we think we're going to stop these breach dwell times and be in a better position to stop the breaches in the first place. So I encourage everybody to open up a LUMU free account, start looking for compromise, intentionally look for compromise. You're going to start finding it. You're going to be able to operationalize that intelligence. And, LUMU is here at the end of the day to help you understand your compromise level. So that's why we're here. And I hope to work with you.
Perfect. And to open up that free account, go to lumu.io. Go ahead and start your free account, start collecting that information. And then what we could do along with LUMU is reach back out to us at Sinnott Wolach Technology Group. We'll be more than happy to set up a time where we can actually help analyze that information with the LUMU team and then tell you a little bit about what it's finding. So David, again, thanks very much for joining us. I appreciate it. And have a great rest of the day.
All right. You too. Thank you, Jeff.
Thank you everyone for watching. We hope you enjoyed today's webinar. Check out our YouTube channel for previous Let's Talk Security broadcasts. Just go to youtube.com and search for Sinnott Wolach Technology Group. This episode is sponsored by LUMU, Assume You're Compromised and Prove Otherwise, and produced by Events by Drew Productions. Let's Talk Security is brought to you by Sinnott Wolach Technology Group, a leading provider of next-generation network and information security solutions and services.